Is it
Fight.
ibuprofen?
Plant your 2 feet in the ground and swing. That's what you can do.
Actually,
That's what I'm
no,
gonna do.
because it continues to get worse as you get older.
Nah, ain't no getting worse,
It's okay.
Babson.
It's
Ain't no getting no
Debbie
worse.
Downer over here.
Yeah, I ain't gonna get no worse. Now, what are you talking about?
8 million cats die from feline AIDS.
I'm a fighter. I'm an athlete. That does say why my pitch was a little off, though, because I couldn't get the...
Oh, now we're blaming the...
Oh, okay, my bad. That
You
wrong
can't
time.
retro excuse this thing.
That was wrong.
Cosell already broke down the film from your first pitch. Greg Cosell, NFL Films, joins us now at Greg Cosell on Twitter. Greg, what is up? How are you?
How you guys doing?
Well,
We're doing good.
We're good.
Ron Slay found out today that he has arthritis, so he said that they're trying to shut him down.
You know what? I don't have arthritis, fortunately, but I know the feeling of getting older. Believe me.
Yeah, it ain't fun.
Right.
Greg, let's start with Malik Willis last night. Vrabel ended up taking him out after a 17-yard run because he said he put him in there to watch him throw the ball, not run the ball. What did you see from the rookie quarterback from Liberty?
Well, I actually watched every one of his snaps in a lot of detail, and I made notes almost on every play. But, I think I saw what I probably would have expected. First of all, we know that he will always have the ability to make the spectacular play. Obviously the TD run, the sidearm pass to Hudson.
Oh.
We know that those things he can do. So that's not an oh my God, wow, look what he did. We know that. So then you have to think beyond that. You have to think, what does he need to learn to really play quarterback in this league? And obviously he was a third-round pick. He wasn't a first-round pick.
Mm-hmm.
He's not expected to be the starter this year, although you never know how a season plays out. So I would say that at this point, he doesn't see things quite as clearly and as decisively as he needs to. I would say that the term I always use is elimination and isolation as opposed to processing. He doesn't eliminate what's not there quickly enough and get to what is there within the timing and structure of the play. And there are examples of that. There were numerous examples last night, even though I guess he only dropped back maybe 13 or 14 or 15 times. The other thing that really stood out to me, and this tells you that he's not seeing things, watch a quarterback's head when he drops back.
Mm-hmm.
If there's too much head movement, if it's moving from side to side, then he's not really seeing it, because head movement should not really happen. The only way it should really happen is if you're trying to manipulate or move a defender, and then the head movement is almost calculated. It's not random. His head movement was too random. It was just moving back and forth.
Yeah.
And that tells you that he's not really seeing it, or he's not understanding exactly what he's seeing. It's not registering in the way that it should.
So specifically, going back to you pointing out, like, the elimination doesn't eliminate, certain things, and there are examples of that. Can you pull a play maybe that was a good example of that?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple, really. I mean,
Yeah.
I would say, and we'll go through a couple of plays.
Okay.
I would say that you could almost argue the first play of the game was interesting, and I'd love to know how they teach it, because the first play of the game was play action boot out of the straight I formation. And he ended up throwing the ball in the flat to Carter at about 100 miles an hour. Now, I don't know how they teach it, because normally when you go play action boot, there's a backside crosser that comes to the side of the play action, which there was, but there's also a front side route beyond the flat route. It's usually an out route. And Fitzpatrick was wide open on the out route. And he easily could have made that throw to Fitzpatrick. But I don't know if that, I don't know if that's how they teach it. Maybe they teach it that he should have been looking for the backside crosser. And that was possibly there, but questionable. So he ended up throwing it impatiently to Carter in the flat, and he just threw it too hard. Then, they tried to help him out a lot. They started the second possession with a shot play concept. He did not have a throw here on this one, so you couldn't blame him. He scrambled. But there were a number of examples, Dawn, where he broke down too early in the pocket, which doesn't surprise me at all because he's so used to being a runner. On the second possession, there was a 3rd and 5. And he was very quick to break down in the pocket. He never planted his back foot, and then he dropped his eyes. And you can't drop your eyes as a quarterback in the pocket. And the Titans staff recognized this. So what did they do? They started the 3rd possession with a screen. They wanted to give him an easy completion to get him comfortable and to have him settle in. And that was really good. But he's very unsettled in the pocket. His feet move too much. He doesn't really plant his back foot. And all that then impacts your eye discipline and what you're looking at. Because when there's just too much body movement, your head's just not comfortable. Your head's not calm. I mean, that's true in any sport. Slay, you'd appreciate that. I mean, if there's too much body movement for no reason, your head's not calm.
Yeah.
And he needs to just calm down. But by the way, all of this is to be expected. This is not. We are not defining his career. We're just talking about last night's game.
Well, and people also forget he sat as a backup for 2 years at Auburn behind Jarrett Stidham and Bo Nix, and then he transferred.
Yeah, now he did throw a really good ball to Kinsey late in the second quarter.
Yeah.
An intermediate out route. It was a flood concept. It's in everybody's playbook. Flood means it's a 3-level stretch concept to one side of the field. But what's interesting about that play, too, because obviously I was looking a lot at Treylon Burks. Burks was the backside receiver. He was the single receiver to the boundary. He actually ran a good route on that, and he was open, but it was a frontside trips read for Willis, and Kinsey was open. So that was a really good throw. The other really good throw, obviously, was they came back to the shot play concept to start their 4th possession, and that was play action off outside zone with 2 routes, a deep sail by McMath and a crosser by Malone. It's a deep sail cross combination in everybody's playbook, and Willis went to McMath on the deep sail. That was a really good throw because you're kind of throwing that. It's a deep throw, so it's not a true spot throw in a strict sense, but it is a spot throw to a certain extent. You're counting on the receiver to be in a certain spot based on practice and the depth of the route.
So another play that a lot of Titans fans obviously have talked about, and Mike Vrabel addressed it after the game. They started him in the second half, and then Mike Vrabel said afterwards he was pulled, because of that play, because they wanted him to throw the ball. Can you talk us through that play?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and that was the next play I was going to deal with, but I felt like I was talking too long. So
we want all of it, Cosell.
No, he was moving his head around on that play too, and he had open receivers.
Well,
and poor Dez, I feel like he missed Dez open numerous times.
Oh, well, that first play of the third, it was the first play of the third quarter, was it not?
Yes.
Second play, first pass.
Second play?
Yeah.
Okay. So it was another play that everybody runs now in the NFL. It's shotgun bang play action, meaning it's a quick drop off the play action. It's off inside zone. Some teams run it out of a power look. Some teams run it out of inside zone. But it's bang play action because it's a quick drop. And they got exactly what they wanted from the defense. The safety raced up to play the run. Fitzpatrick was wide open on the inbreaker, but Willis did not turn it loose. And only he could tell you why he didn't turn it loose. But you got to throw that ball. Now, here's a great example. He ended up running for 17 yards. But I can tell you for a fact that from a coaching standpoint, he's going to get a minus. You got to throw that ball. I mean, the receiver's wide open. That's the play call. When you call a pass play and the concept works and the receiver's open, you got to throw it. And my guess is that's why he took him out. But that was as blatant on as you could get. I mean, that ball just had to be thrown.
So Dez was his first look?
Yes.
First read?
Yeah, and then Burks was open on a post.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but he never got there.
That's a quick drop throw. That's meant to go to Fitzpatrick.
Okay.
Burks was on the other side of the formation. He ran vertically. I always have a tough time when people say, we had another receiver open. Well, yeah, that happens a lot, but it's not within the timing of the play call.
Yeah.
You know, this is a quick drop. This was not a sit in the pocket, read the field. This was a 3-step drop, timing, bang, play action, throw, and the play worked. They had what they hoped, which was Fitzpatrick wide open. It wasn't a quick slant because I believe he took 6 steps and broke in, but it was an inbreaker and he was wide open. That ball just had to be thrown.
Greg Cosell with us on 3HL, at Greg Cosell on Twitter.
So, Cosell, with him, is this a learned behavior? Because when he got to Liberty, the line wasn't like it was, so he had to have one read, get out of there, and go. So is it a part of, like, you think, breaking habits with him?
I think there's a lot involved there, Slay, in this sense. Is all his life he's been a great athlete. So all his life he's been able to run and make plays. That's number one. Number two, all I know is what I saw at Liberty. I don't know what he did in high school, you know,
Right.
and I'm sure it was similar. At Liberty, the passing concepts were relatively elementary.
Okay.
So the point being that if the first read wasn't there, they probably had no issue with him running at all because he's good at it.
Right.
You know, they're trying to win games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
So what happens is you develop in your mind, it just becomes ingrained that, hey, here's the play. The first read's not there. Maybe I'll take a peek at the second. Maybe not. But if I feel or perceive any kind of pressure, you know what? I'm a pretty damn good runner. I
Yeah.
can run and make yards. And that just, you know, whereas guys who grow up as pocket quarterbacks, because they don't have that ability, they're always playing to get the ball to somebody else, Slay. You know what I mean? Like the Tom Brady's of the world, he's not thinking, hey, man, I'm going to run. He's thinking, how can I get the ball out of my hand to someone who's going to make a play?
Right.
So he starts playing that way from the time he's 8 years old. From the time Willis is 8 years old, he's the best athlete on the field. So it's just a whole mindset. It becomes sort of ingrained in your DNA.
So are there some big picture positive things that you took away from watching him?
You know, these preseason games, guys, and they're so important to players. So I'm not trying to minimize their importance, but I think for me and the way coaches probably think, this is a learning experience for young players, okay? That's what it's for. They do certain things because they want to see how they'll execute, and then they teach. So Mike Vrabel is not thinking about Malik Willis in 5 years. Mike Vrabel's thinking about Malik Willis in the next practice.
Yeah.
So, you know, to me, these games, because they're not game plan games. So, you know, I just went through this game, and I really want to drive home the point that I'm not making a definitive statement about Malik Willis's future. You know, in many ways, you want to see him make mistakes. You want to be able to sit with him, whether it's on the field or in the meeting rooms, and and have Tannehill be able to help him, and whoever, you know, the coaches. And I know they have a lot of offensive coaches. They've got, obviously, I know Vrabel is very much involved, but it's Todd Downing, it's Pat O'Hara, it's Tim Kelly. They've got a lot of coaches who work with them, and you want to be able to show them things and say, hey, what did you see? What was your thought process? Explain it to me, and then work off that. You want this to happen in the preseason. Very quickly, I'll never forget a story Ron Jaworski told me when Dick Vermeil brought in Sid Gilman in 1980 to be a quarterback, kind of consultant guru. And Sid Gilman was always considered the father of the modern day passing game. And Jaws had been in the league 7 years already, okay? And Sid Gilman said to Jaws, he said, look, I'm going to make you do things in the preseason that we don't know if you can do. I want to find out, and you need to find out if you can do them. This is the time to find out. We don't want to find out in the regular season. We want to find out in training camp and in the preseason games. So if you throw 5 interceptions, who cares? Who cares? We're finding out what we can do, what you can do, and then we know how we can move forward. And that's why all the Twitter stuff is just, I find it almost like a comedy routine when people, say, oh, so-and-so, he just threw a bad ball. Oh, boy, he's bad. Oh, he threw a great ball. He's going to the Hall of Fame. I mean, that stuff gets so ridiculous because that's not what training camp is about.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's about quick takes, which we'll do later in the show when you're not on
Right.
with us.
I'll leave that to you guys. Yeah.
Treylon Burks, he had one target, kind of a jump ball near the goal line that over time maybe he goes and gets that. I don't know. But also the end around, he absolutely buried a corner going toward the sideline, only a 4-yard gain. What did you see from him?
Yeah, I thought it was up and down. There was one ball that Willis should have thrown to Burks. He actually took a sack in the high red zone by Means, and he should have turned it loose to Burks. That was the call. It was Burks on a fade. Now the corner was playing off coverage, so my guess is Willis probably didn't see him as open, but it's irrelevant. The corner was 6 inches shorter than Burks, and you got to throw that ball. But that's also where his poor footwork, Willis's, came into play. But what I would say about Burks is I would say there were some routes in which Burks looked good and was open, and there were others in which his route speed and play speed was not what you want it to be. So I thought it was up and down. The other guy I took a pretty hard look at, by the way, was Petite-Frere.
Yes, let us know.
This is what I want to hear.
I thought he played pretty well. He played 28 total snaps. I thought he was pretty strong in pass protection. I thought the athleticism that he clearly has, which was there on his college tape at Ohio State, I thought he showed that. And I thought that his technique was more consistent. So whoever's working with him, obviously the O-line coach, I don't know how many they have. Teams have so many coaches these days. But I thought that he was more statuesque. And by that, I mean, he wasn't reaching and lunging, which he had a glaring tendency to do at Ohio State. And he got beat by a lot of pass rushers. He got beat a lot by Hutchinson. He got beat a lot by Ebiketie from Penn State. I thought that he was much more upright not in a negative way, not where his knees were not bent, but I thought he wasn't reaching and lunging. And I thought it was a good, solid first performance for a guy who definitely had technique issues that needed to be cleaned up.
That's interesting because that has turned into a training camp battle, him and Dylan
Radins only played 7 snaps, and he had one really bad pass protection snap where he just reached and lunged. I think it might have been on the first possession.
It was. Somebody had to help come clean it up. The right goal.
Yeah. I mean, and that, when you reach and lunge, your balance and body control go right out the window.
Yeah. Hey, there we go.
You still think Radins looks like an inside guy?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, I do too.
I've told you that numerous times.
Yeah.
I'm not an offensive line guru, but I don't think he's going to be a tackle in this league when it all shakes out.
Yeah. That island, being on that island, a little something different.
Love it, Cosell. Great breakdown, man. Really appreciate it. Anything else that you wanted to get out there that you noticed?
I did take a look at Farley because he played 24 snaps.
Yeah.
So I wanted to see, he's a pretty talented guy. I mean, he played left corner pretty much every snap. They played a good percentage of man. He played both press and off. When he played press, he played what we call mirror match press man, meaning he didn't jam with his hands or his arms. He just, waited for the receiver to declare and then got in his hip pocket, usually to the inside. So he used the sideline as his friend. He got beat one time, but the ball wasn't thrown to his receiver. He got beat over the top on a stutter go by Polk early in the second quarter, but the ball was thrown to the other side of the field. I thought a couple of times at the top of route stems, he just got a little kind of tied up and was a little late to react. But he does have really good plant and drive quickness when he's in off coverage, and he's physical. His body type is strong. Look, he was a first round pick, and he would have been a higher pick if he wasn't coming off all these injuries.
Yeah.
So, they want him to be the starting left corner. So I would imagine he's going to get some more meaningful snaps in the preseason.
Do you think Roger McCreary could play inside slot corner?
That's a great question.
Did you see much of that on film at Auburn?
No, not in college.
Yeah.
he was an outside corner. He was a really good outside corner. I
Yeah.
mean, when you watch him against Alabama and their receivers, LSU against Boutte, I mean, he played mirror match press man at a really high level. So, everybody just assumes, oh, put a guy because he might be small or whatever, put him in the slot.
Yeah.
But slot's a real position. There's a lot of things you got to do in the slot that are different from playing on the outside. There's a two-way go. You got to be able to play the run. You got to be able to blitz. I mean, there's more going on in the slot. So that's a tough question. Has he been doing that in training camp?
A little bit, but there is a battle with Caleb Farley and Roger McCreary, apparently.
You mean for the outside?
For the outside, yes.
That doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
I mean, Farley has more of the ideal traits than McCreary, but McCreary's a really good player. I mean, the arm length thing hurt him as far as the draft, but McCreary's a good player.
We asked him about that, and he said, I didn't think I had short arms until I went through this draft process.
Well, that's what happens with a lot of these guys, because teams do studies. I mean, this stuff's not made up. I think I told you that only one corner in the last 10 years was drafted with arms less than 29 inches, and that guy didn't make it. And McCreary's arms are less than 29 inches. So teams look at that and say, hey, we got to be careful, no matter how good his tape is, because then you get caught up in the old Bill Parcells, do you want to draft exceptions?
I love it, man.
But his tape was great. I mean, there's no getting around that.
Yeah. Awesome. Great stuff, Cosell.